before we get into that conversation, we want to thank our other sponsor for today, and that is Viore. If you are sick and tired of traditional old just workout gear, you want to check out Viore. It is literally some of our favorite stuff on the planet. I think I'm wearing my sweater right now that I love. They make shorts, they're core shorts. They're that have liners in them. I absolutely love those. This stuff is made to work out in. It's made to lounge around in. They have stuff that you can wear to work and not change and go immediately into the gym, and you can squat very easily in your dress pants. You can go to VioreClothing.com/TEF and 20% will be automatically applied to your order. But I could do a whole show on how much I love this stuff.
Oh my God.
I have retired jeans completely because of the options they have for pants that aren't just leggings, but they feel like leggings.
No doubt. I mean, Sean and Lauren, I'm nothing if not a man of practicality. I use this. I like multiple things that wrapped into one package. I only eat with sporks. My favorite cartoon growing up was the Nickelodeon classic Cat Dog. And that's why I'm wearing one of their shackets. It is a shirt and a jacket at the same time. It's got the fleece lining. You can wear it as an over jacket. You can wear it just as an accessory for a shirt. It's incredibly warm. It looks great. Like you said, they're dress pants you could turn around and squat in if you needed to. Maybe you had to move a work desk or something. I don't know. But either way, everything is like functional. Every time I wear Viore stuff, people are like, "Oh, what is that? Where did you get that?" And you're like,
they want to feel you. They get up and touch you and stuff.
Exactly. If you're a bit of a hypochondriac, it's probably not the best instinct to generate. But believe me, everyone I've talked to and I've shared Viore with, they've shown up to the gym, a week, 2 weeks later, and they're just decked out because
I'm
it is the
1,000
best.
with it. I've yet to have to tell someone, "Hey man, check this out," and then come back like, "Yeah, I wasn't a big fan." It's always, you've created a new addiction for me, and I get pictures of people that of their stuff that they've ordered. But VioreClothing.com/TEF, 20% off. Check out their stuff, guys. Weather's starting to get a little bit warmer here in the Northern Hemisphere. If you need some new shorts, some new workout tees, absolutely perfect. Like, I just can't say enough good things about Viore, and they've been great partners to us. So please go and take a look-see. VioreClothing.com/TEF. We just spoke with Grace Walton. We wanted to talk to Jeremy Austin now about where things stand going into quarterfinals for the Oceania athletes. And when we look at the top athletes coming in here, you've got Jay Crouch, who finished 3rd overall for the men. Ricky Garrard, someone who was in the conversation of being able to win the whole thing. He was 15th. Jack Laker, a name that we don't know a whole lot about. Jeremy's going to talk about him. And then on the women's side, look at Cara Saunders in 10th place, still throwing down. Caitlin Van Zil's up there, Christy Bishop, Jamie Simmons. So there's some very talented athletes for both men and women coming out of the Oceania region. And I spoke with Jeremy Austin, who is, again, the mayor of Oceania CrossFit, Australian CrossFit, and got his thoughts on just the landscape in general and who we should be watching now heading into quarterfinals. Jeremy, thanks so much for doing this, man. How are you?
Mate, I'm very from the ridiculous weather we've got here. Torrential rain for 3 weeks. Sunny Gold Coast, no more. We are now just dealing with wet weather.
That does not seem right, knowing what I know about your region of the country. It's usually very beautiful there. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that.
Yeah, but anyway, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. But yeah, it's that time of year, I think. And I think 2024 has thrown up a few curveballs. So, we'll continue on.
Yeah, we will sally forth here. Well, we're setting the table for quarterfinals. We just heard from Gracie Walton earlier in the show. But first thing, I just wanted to get your thoughts about just the general vibe in Oceania, given the fact that you have an entirely new batch of women competing. You probably have the best men's field that you've had there in a while, and you have a super team that has a legitimate chance of winning the whole thing in August.
It's a weird one because we could still send 3 women that have qualified for the CrossFit Games to the CrossFit Games, even with the caliber of athlete that is out. If you take out Tia, Cara, Ellie, Emily DeRoy, Laura Clifton going team, we've still got Maddie Sturt, we've still got Caitlin Van Zyl sitting in there. I think you mentioned Grace Walton. I think she's going to be an absolute superstar of the sport in years to come, and she might well cement herself as the number one seed going into the Torian Pro this year. But it's going to be, let's knock the barn doors off. Let's open it up and see what happens at the Torian Pro, because if you're going to make it as a female, this is your year.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about Gracie Walton, second in the world in the Open. And we were talking a little bit earlier just about the approach that she took to that. And you thought maybe that wasn't the right way for her to go. Why do you think that?
I just think if you're going to go into a competition that you've never qualified for, you're now sitting there as a number one seed going into the Torian Pro in the Oceania region. I'd be pretty much happy to sit there and go under the radar. And I know she obviously wants to go in a top heat when she gets there, and she'll get ranked very well. But I think I'd be more inclined to go with the Pete Ellis or the Jake Douglas scenario, where we're just going to churn in, do the open workouts, not to worry too much about it, and then just get to the semi-final or the quarterfinals first before the semi-final, and then unleash all the dogs.
Mm-hmm. Well, where does she need to get better?
I think she's been progressively getting better over the last couple of years, and the holes in her game have been evident for people who have been watching her and her steady progress as she's gone over the last couple of years. We go back a couple of years, Tia wipes the floor with the entire competition and goes 6 from 6. And in the first event, King Arthur, Grace had some big holes in her game. One of those in particular was muscle ups. She's gone away and done a lot of homework, and like her coach, Costa Illich, over in the West, has got her in a space where I think she's like ready to listen to everything that he's going to say. And he's obviously progressing her in the right way and at the right sort of tempo in getting her that progression slow but steady. Like a lot of people, they're excited to get there and get to that next level super quick. And I think you find that a lot of people get kicked out the back door if they are getting that to the CrossFit Games that quick, and they tend to sort of burn out a little bit quicker, whereas Grace is just steady as you go. And I love how she's posting bits and pieces on her social media of her years ago. There was one of her a while ago doing a 60-kilo power clean, and it was not a very good power clean back in the day, but now it's pristine. So she's doing all the work she needs to do to progress herself and get herself in a position, and she's positioned going into the semi-final this year at Torian to take her that number one spot.
Mm-hmm. Over on the men's side, Jay Crouch, third in the world, coming out of the Open, coming off an 8th place finish at the CrossFit Games. Where is his ceiling, do you think?
Jay Crouch going into 24.3, like last minute addition, and just throws it down. And I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but giving Jay 9% of the vote to take out 24.3, that is his jam. Like that is what he does.
Well, I just think it shows that people don't know a whole lot about him. You know, still.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets to work and gets it done, and then goes, oh, wow, okay, that time's pretty good. And it's still holding up as one of the best times in the world. And he just got to work and does what he does. And what's his ceiling? That's a really, really good question. He's another one on a very good trajectory, and his steady progress has been very good. He has now moved into the proven stable. Obviously, his old coach, Rob Forte, who did finish 21st in the Oceania region. Can you believe it? In the 35-39 division. So finishing in the open division 21st. So Rob's still going okay. But Rob set him up for some success early on. And now Rob putting his hand up and going, hey, I can't give you what you need. You need to go and find it from someone else. Who better than going to see Shane Orr and the proven stables. And he's probably going to really put his foot down this year and potentially get on that podium, if not top 5.
Yeah. I want to ask you about a young man who showed up in 43rd that I don't know about, but I know he's young. He's 21 years old. His name's Jack Laker. Never been to the games, sort of new on the scene. What can you tell us about him?
Well, very new to the scene. Met Jack for the first time last year. He's a Kiwi boy who's now living in Abu Dhabi and training out at CrossFit Yas. and training under Michael Makaide. And he went to the Touring Pro last year in the Renegade team. And they had a very, very young team. He was the oldest. They had Gabby Napa was in there as a 15-year-old, and she'll progress over the years as well. But Jack's one of those athletes who just needed to be molded and guided a little bit. And I think under Michael Makaide, I think he's going to get that sort of New Zealand camaraderie that they'll get going on over there. And we know as it happens, CrossFit Yas, they do tend to provide us with some good athletes that do well in the open. Going back to Jamie Simmons or Jamie Green back in the day, Jamie Simmons now. But I think that him giving the opportunity on that floor last year as a team to now potentially coming in as an individual, I think it's going to open his eyes and maybe give him the sort of the carrot that's been dangled in front of a few athletes that are coming through, the younger sort of athletes like Pete Ellis in our region.
I want to ask you too about the super team that you got coming out of there with James Newberry. And, yeah, well, let's talk about that one. Let's talk about Newberry and Con Porter. You got DeRoy and then Cara Saunders, who, was top 10 in the open. I think that's a team that a lot of people might be underestimating. What do you like about that foursome?
I like the fact that they've got experience on their side. Being on the big stage, they know exactly what to do. I got asked the other day whether or not Emily DeRoy was going to be the one holding the torch for the team, or whether or not she was going to be a detriment to their team based upon who they've got. Is she kicking herself that she's gone team this year? Well, we don't really know because we weren't aware of what was going to happen. She obviously had to make that decision pretty early on. I think with the amount of experience that they've got, they are definite podium contenders at the games come August later on in the year.
How is Cara Webb Saunders still doing this?
I don't know.
It's
honestly
incredible.
She's just an absolute weapon. She's a machine. And I think it's more to do with mindset and getting your body to do stuff. Obviously having two babies rather than like the one we've seen Tia come back after the birth of her child. But for Cara to go away and do it twice and still come back and finish so well in the open, I honestly I'm flabbergasted by the athletes, especially the females that come back from a little bit of adversity, if you can call childbirth adversity, if you think about it for your body. Like you're doing the hardest thing your body is designed to do ever, and that's give birth. And then you're turning around and probably doing the second hardest thing you could ever do for your body. And absolutely killing it. She's on fire at the moment. And I don't know if she's kicking herself going, hey, I don't think I expected to do so well.
It was impressive. That was not a name I expected to see there in the top 10. And I'm with you. I'm really looking forward to seeing that team take the floor, not only in semifinals, but I'm pretty sure that you can pencil in them for Fort Worth when they get to the CrossFit Games. But who's a man right now that we're not talking about going into quarterfinals that we should be?
It would be Ricky Garrard, would it?
He's top 5. We showed him. At least he was the top 5 men that we showed coming in. But sure, that's a guy that I think is flown under the radar a little bit here in the first couple of weeks.
I think so. And I just think that his name got thrown out with Jeff and Roman and Pat and who's going to take things out, and Justin Medeiros gets put into that top 5 echelon of what's happening at the CrossFit Games of recent years. And Ricky just seems to have almost fallen underneath the radar. And I think Ricky's probably going to like that a fair bit and then come in all guns blazing, and don't expect anything less than probably a top 3 after quarterfinals for Ricky, because we know what he can do. Other athletes that we're not talking about, probably the Pete Ellis and Jake Douglas of this world, who Jake obviously making it last year. Pete's so close to making it last year, but they've just been sensible with the way they've approached the open. I think Pete's coach, Matt Riley, who's a former regional athlete as well, probably said to Pete, hey, you don't need to win the open. And we can just settle into this season and work our way through the season and just progressively get better. Now, going through the 6-day quarterfinals that we've got to go through shortly, I think we're going to see probably Pete Ellis step up and go, hey, we've got something to prove here. But in saying that, we've got some additional athlete spots up for grabs. So if it's going to be that important for athletes to make the top 30 from last year, hey, we've got a little bit more breathing room this time around. And 40 athletes for especially our region is a fair chunk to put through. So they've got probably a little bit of breathing space.
Same question for the women. Who's flying under the radar right now that we should be focused on, especially once quarterfinals roll around?
Well, Julia Hannaford is probably one of the ones that I'm going to flag. Maddie Sturt is obviously still in the mix, but Julia proved her worth when she went over to Wadapalooza early in the year, and everyone's going, oh, who's this girl? Like, she's a girl with a cowboy hat. We've seen her bring out the cowboy hat, and she's happy to do so, and she lifts very heavy. And I just think if the programming suits her, I think she could be a real dark horse for someone who's really going to step up once we do hit that Oceania semi-final. Quarterfinals, obviously, we don't know what's happening as yet with workouts yet to be announced. I'm actually pretty excited considering there wasn't a major heavy lift in the Open this year where the programming team is going. So if the programming suits her, I think she could really do the same thing that Pete and Jake are going to do for the men and go, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here and I'm ready to throw down with the best in the world.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot to be excited about there down in Oceania, and we always appreciate you breaking it down for us. And it's just always great getting to talk to you, man. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much.
Mate, very well. Thanks, buddy.
Always a pleasure talking to our good friend, Jeremy Austin. Just a genuinely good human being. When I was down there for the Invitational in 2017, he let us stay at his house on the Gold Coast. Took me and my wife to SeaWorld. We got like a behind the scenes look, got to feed polar bears. Like, it was awesome. It was just an amazing experience.
Oh, wow.
Jeremy is 100% the man. But each week we're going to have some interesting stats about the regions that we are talking about. Next week, we're going to have John Singleton on to talk about Europe. But Tommy, you've uncovered some things that make you go, or at least raise an eyebrow about Oceania.
No doubt. I think in general, and you talked about the temperature with Jeremy, but I think this upcoming season for Oceania is poised to be a big one. I think you could argue that it's the best collective men's field in terms of potential qualifiers, with Jay Crouch being in the top 10, Bailey Martin finishing 12th last season, and then you add Ricky Garrard back into the mix. And that's important because no Oceania or formerly Pacific or formerly Australia region male has ever finished in the top 10 in back-to-back seasons. Wow. And it's crazy to think about because you've had people up inside the top 5, as early as 2009, back when old Commando Steve Willis finished 4th at the games. And you think about all the years where Chad McKay was hanging around, Rob Forte hanging around, but they never were able to go back to back, even with Ricky, right? Like, he obviously serves the suspension and then he finishes and then gets injured. So the sustained excellence at the top for the Oceania men just hasn't happened. And I think that can happen this year with Jay Crouch potentially being that guy to fit that bill. And then you look at the unprecedented success that the women have had, with 3 women having finished on the podium. But now it marks a monumental changeover in the fact that, one, since standardized programming began in 2011, I refer to it as the open era. And discounting 2019 and 2020, where there wasn't standardized programming for qualifying, there's never been a season where all 3 Oceania, Pacific, Australia spots were guaranteed to go to 3 entirely new people. So we've never had a complete changeover in the qualifiers on the women's side. There's always been one person and carrying over from the previous season, whether it was Ruth Anderson Horrell, whether it was Tia, Cara, you name it, Jamie. And that also plays to the fact that this is the first time in the open era that someone named Cara Saunders, Tia Clark Jr., or Jamie Simmons will not be competing in the region as an individual. Wow. So now you talk about an unprecedented changing of the guard and an absence of these legends of the sport. And it just sets the table for athletes like Gracie Walton, like Julia Hannaford, like Maddie Sturt, who broke through to the games at 20 years old back in 2015 and is trying to get back. It has been so close for so many years. Like Caitlin Van Zyl, and who has had success on the team and is ready for the individual side. So there's so much opportunity, and it's just, I believe the term's frothing down there. It's just like, oh man, they're just frothing and ready to go down in Australia. And to quote our good friend Jeremy Austin, I think this season for them is going to be a whole another kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to keep an eye on through quarterfinals and really see now, who starts to emerge as especially on the women's side. Like you said, that's crazy that those names have been fixtures there for so long. Like, who starts to emerge as the favorite to grab one of those spots?
And we still yet to see to add one more thing in, like, we still haven't seen an Oceania team make the podium. And that is one of the glaring holes of that region. And there is a distinct group now with Cara, with Emily DeRoy, trying to change that fact. So that could be another addition to that as well.
Yeah, we're trying to track them down too, get them on the show. So
for sure.
All right. Well, next week, Lauren's going to be talking to John Singleton to get us ready for Europe, because that's going to be another exciting region to watch as we head into summer.